There's a fascinating book from 1836 called The Backwoods of Canada. The book is comprised of letters of Catherine Parr Strickland Trail. She was the wife of a British officer who was given a land grant in Canada for his service during the war. The book starts in 1832 with their departure from Greenock, Scotland, and it follows their trip all the way through what is now Ontario. While this book was published in 1836, very little had changed in the way of life in the backwoods. So this book gives us a very good glimpse about what frontier life was like in the late 18th and early 19th century. Thanks for joining us today on 18th Century Cooking with James Townsend and Son. Forewarned and forearmed. That's the theme of Catherine Trail's book, The Backwoods of Canada. She wrote this series of letters to tell her friends about exactly what it takes to survive in the backwoods. This is a very fascinating book about what frontier life was like from a woman's perspective. Let me share with you this passage. "You must bear with me if I occasionally weary you with dwelling on trifles. To me, nothing that bears the stamp of novelty is devoid of interest. Even the clay-built ovens, stuck upon four legs at a distance from the houses, were not unnoticed in passing. When there is not the convenience of one of these ovens outside the dwellings, the bread is baked in large iron pots, bake kettles they are termed. At first I was inclined to grumble and rebel against the expediency of the bake kettles, but as cooking stoves, iron ovens, and even brick and clay-built ovens will not start up at your bidding in the bush, these substitutes are valuable and perform a number of uses. I have eaten excellent light bread baked in one of these kettles. I have eaten boiled potatoes, baked meat, excellent stews, and good soups, all cooked at different times in this universally useful utensil, so let it not be despised." We're going to be embarking on a journey of our own about the various uses of the bake kettle, or as we call it today, the Dutch oven. Today's recipe is a fairly simple one. We'll be doing a hasty pudding out of Maria Rundell's 1807 cookbook, A New System of Domestic Cookery. It's believed that puddings were introduced to English kitchens by the French during the Norman invasion of the British Isles during the 12th century. Their popularity exploded during the 14th century when someone discovered that you could boil these puddings in a cloth. The pudding bag allowed for puddings to be boiled alongside other courses. They were intended to serve as an economic filler so that less meat will be required to satisfy appetites. Boiling a full-size pudding can take 4 to 6 hours. Not a very practical dish for a frontier manor woman without the full amenities of a kitchen. So a hasty pudding is perfect for this setting, and a Dutch oven is the perfect vessel to cook it in. Now that our water is boiling, let's get started. Rundell's recipe omits all the measurements, so the measurements we're going to be giving you today are based off our experience. This recipe should make about 10 to a dozen small puddings. We're going to start by combining about 1 cup of fine breadcrumbs with a half a cup of currants or raisins, and the zest of a half a lemon, and a cup of grated suet. Instead of breadcrumbs in this recipe, you could use pounded up ship's biscuits. We offer ship's biscuits at James Townsend & Son in these 1-pound bags. You get about 6 biscuits to the bag. One of the things you're really going to need for this recipe is beef suet or kidney fat. Make sure to check out our previous episode on suet for more information. Now back to our recipe. Make sure your ingredients are well incorporated. In a separate bowl, you need to whisk up 2 eggs, 2 egg yolks, and a half a teaspoon of powdered ginger. Now combine your wet and your dry ingredients. It should make a pretty stiff paste. Once this is mixed, you can roll it into small egg-sized balls. You want to roll these in flour after you've turned them into your egg-sized shape. Now, just as a reminder, we're cooking these in boiling water rather than frying them. You're going to need to stir these occasionally. They need to boil for 15 or 20 minutes. A lot better than 4 hours. And that's it, a very simple yet popular dish. Fresh out of the pot, these look a little soggy on the outside, but let them rest a few minutes and they'll firm right up. This can be served hot or cold with any kind of sweet sauce, molasses, honey, maple sugar, or a pudding sauce made with equal parts melted butter, sugar, and sack, which is a sherry wine. These are something you really ought to try. They're actually very, very good. They have a really nice texture. With the sweet sauce, they've got a really nice sweetness. The raisins are in there. You can taste that hint of ginger and the lemon zest. Really a wonderful thing. As good as these are, it's amazing that they've dropped off the culinary scene. Really good.